Welcome to another episode of This Is Why I Don't Vote, a podcast. Season 5, Episode 17. Your safe space to discuss sports, politics, social issues, and even religion, where we will take it all very seriously, but not too seriously. Nico Iamaleava, the starting quarterback of the University of Tennessee Volunteers, decides to shop around for more money and ends up screwing himself in the process. It isn't the first time this has happened in college football, and it certainly won't be the last. And don't think that just because of NIL, this is somehow a unique or a new phenomenon. This has been happening for years. The jump has not been between schools, but it's been from collegiate athlete to pro athlete. And I went to see a film in the theater. Believe it or not, it's true. The movie is called Warfare. I highly recommend that you go and see it, and I will advocate for as much in the second segment of this podcast. Thank you all to my loyal listeners. I do appreciate you. If you're new to the podcast, please like, subscribe, thumbs up, 5-star, write a review, send to friends and enemies far and wide. If you like what you hear, This Is Why I Don't Vote podcast is on Patreon. Please consider supporting.
Act 1. Bye Nico.
I'm glad my schedule worked out the way that it did. Nico Iamaleava leaves the University of Tennessee, and the week that I would likely have done an episode on this soap opera style departure, I ended up doing a hockey segment with my buddy John that took up the entire episode, had some thoughts that I put down, read an article on The Athletic. By the way, The Athletic, their reporting is by far the best in any sport, any athletic endeavor. I don't even read the articles on that clown show that is ESPN. The Athletic has so far surpassed their reporting, and you actually get the inside scoop that you want on your teams on The Athletic, whereas ESPN is still this speculation factory for, well, I'm not going to make a comment on the type of people who still gravitate towards the quote-unquote reporting on ESPN. I'll just leave it at that. The Athletic did an excellent job at reporting on what happened behind the scenes that likely led Iamaleava to leave the University of Tennessee, and we'll start with the University of Miami. Carson Beck, who plays for the University of Georgia, well, let me correct that, played for the University of Georgia. Carson Beck was injured this past season and did not play in the college football playoff, the University of Georgia having qualified for as much, and very likely had Beck been healthy, would have been a threat to the eventual winner, Ohio State, or whoever they played on the field. The University of Miami, losing Cam Ward to the NFL draft, is now out searching for a college quarterback. They end up paying Beck, who wasn't setting the world on fire with the University of Georgia, but is a top-level college quarterback, pay him $4 million to come to the University of Miami, and that's for a year, 1 year. Beck sets the top of the college football quarterback market at $4 million per year. The University of Tennessee Volunteers go to the college football playoff and end up getting stomped by Ohio State, but Iamaleava, having led this team to a college football playoff berth, feels like he should be compensated for as much. Or more specifically, his father feels like he should be compensated for as much. And let's talk about his father. I don't have any kids. I don't have any kids that play sports. I don't have any kids that play sports at a high level. I don't have any kids that played sports to such a high degree that getting recruited out of high school, colleges, because they now could, through these collectives, were offering them millions and millions of dollars to come and play for their school. I don't know what it's like. What I do know is that Iamaleava, when he was in high school, was recruited by the University of Tennessee, and they signed him to an $8 million contract, $8 million over the course of his college career, and that $8 million being part of incentives that he could earn if he performs at a high level on the football field. I believe the actual number that he was guaranteed, or that was guaranteed under the contract, was $7 million. Based on incentives, he could be paid more. And according to that contract, he was scheduled to make in the next college football season, this college football season coming up in 2025, $2.2 million. Now, the next part of this story is not widely reported, but in my mind, this is the most important part of this story. Madden Iamaleava, the younger brother of Nico Iamaleava, committed to UCLA coming out of high school. Madden would be a freshman in the upcoming class. Madden would have just completed spring practice with UCLA. Madden ends up committing to Arkansas. Madden's father, Nico's father, admitted full-heartedly that his son never went and visited Arkansas. So Madden committed to UCLA, and by the way, the Iamaleavas live in California, Long Beach. They're not that far from UCLA. Madden commits to UCLA. It's clear then that Arkansas comes in with a big bag of money, and sight unseen, Madden commits to Arkansas and goes to Arkansas instead of going to UCLA. So if you look at the way I logically presented this, I'm not a father. I don't have kids who are playing at a high level in college sports, and I certainly have never been in a position where one of my children is offered millions of dollars to go and play college football. But it's clear that the father is directing these children, you take as much money as you can get, no matter the circumstance. That is exactly what Madden did, while at the same time his brother was making overtures behind the scenes through his agent, and very likely at the behest of his father. Is there a landing spot for Nico Iamaleava at another Division I school if he could get more money? The report that surfaced was that overtures had been made to Oregon and they were not receptive. Now let's look at what Nico Iamaleava did over the course of his first full season as the University of Tennessee quarterback. Yes, he led Tennessee to the college football playoff, but as any longtime listener of this show would know, and anyone who's just been listening for the course of the last 12 months, Nico Iamaleava struggled throughout the course of this college football season. The University of Tennessee offense, one of the most vaunted offenses over the course of the last 3 seasons under Hendon Hooker, under Joe Milton, this offense didn't score a point in 5 straight football games, and thankfully had a defense and a running game that was strong enough that in those 5 games, they were able to go 4-1. Not scoring 1 point on offense may not be the fault of the starting quarterback, but college football is very much like the head of a corporation or the president of the United States. If something goes wrong, generally people are looking first at the head coach, then they're looking at the quarterback. The head coach being the commander, the quarterback being the commander on the field. If your offense is great and then your offense is bad, it's very likely that it's the quarterback. I watched those games. Nico missed throws. He missed reads. He ran too quickly. He held the ball too long. After not having the kind of college football season that one would expect you to have if you're going to go out and demand more money, Iamaleava was pot committed to it no matter what. Who knows if there was anyone in his corner giving him any sage advice, but when you don't have the strongest season and you don't have the pedigree or the experience in college football, how are you going to demand $4 or $5 million when you had at best a stewardship type of season as quarterback of one of the most high-powered offenses over the course of the last 3 or 4 college football seasons? Me loves me some Pete Alonso. I'm happy that he's a New York Met. He's tearing it up right now. But Alonso's stats had gone down progressively every year since 2019. That's not the type of resume that you want to say, I should be paid as one of the top 3 people at my position in any sport. So Iamaleava skips this spring practice and then goes into the transfer portal, and guess what? There's no takers. It's no different than when his agent was making these overtures behind the scenes, behind the University of Tennessee's back, about where Iamaleava could land and get more money. There were no takers. One, most teams are settled or are content with the quarterback that they have, and 2, even if they aren't, did Iamaleava prove himself such that they are willing to displace the person that they have at the helm of their offense now? No, he wasn't that great last season. There was a University of Tennessee quarterback about 10 years ago, actually, old man, 12 years ago. His name was Tyler Bray. And Tyler Bray had exceptional stats. If you look at his stats on Wikipedia or on any college football website, his stats look great. He was quarterback for the University of Tennessee in his junior season, and there were very high expectations. I believe this is 2012 or 2013. And frankly, he didn't play well against any ranked team, particularly teams that were ranked in the top 10. He played quite poorly. Tennessee lost all of those games, but when he was playing against a team that was on his level of competition, let's say any of the run-of-the-mill SEC teams, Mississippi, Mississippi State, his stats were fantastic. Well, he comes out in his junior year, and I can remember so many people were saying he's not ready to come out. He needs one more year. He needs to show that he can win the big game at the University of Tennessee. But his father was in his ear, and he had an agent in his ear. And not only did he not get drafted when he expected, he actually expected to be a first or second round pick. He didn't get drafted at all. His father, to anyone that would listen, was lamenting the fact that his son was basically being discriminated against, because how could someone with the stats that he had not be considered a first or second round pick in the NFL draft? And the fact of the matter was, his stats against ranked teams, particularly teams that were ranked in the top 10, were terrible. And his record was terrible. You didn't need an in-depth scouting report to see that this kid wasn't ready for the NFL. That may have been the way that kids 10, 15 years ago jumped at the money. Now you're seeing this evolution where kids are going to jump at the money while they're in college. But it's the same dynamic, dear listener. Kids who have not yet proven themselves worthy of the money while they are in school are going to try to jump for more money. And you're having now this necessary learning curve where schools are going to be less likely to give millions and millions of dollars to a 17 or 18-year-old that they can't guarantee will stay at the school. And they can't even guarantee that that kid will be worth the money in 2 or 3 seasons. The smarter money is going to be on attracting top-level college talent that's proven themselves into your program via this transfer portal. If you're the University of Miami and you lose a first or second round college quarterback pick to the NFL draft, go out and find yourself another top-tier college quarterback. Don't go and pay some kid in high school $6 million, $8 million over the course of 3 or 4 seasons and not have a proven quantity. The story of Nico Iamaleava ends the same way that the story of Tyler Bray did. Bray went out for the NFL draft, didn't even get drafted. I believe he was a walk-on backup for Kansas City for a few years, for Chicago for a few years. So he did play in the league, but did he play at a high level? No. He really didn't ever come into any games unless a starter got hurt. His highlight was playing in the preseason. Here we have Nico Iamaleava going to UCLA, and now the terms have come out, and this is why I'm glad that I waited to do this segment for an entire week. He's probably going to make $1.5 million, whereas if he had stayed at the University of Tennessee, like I said, he was scheduled to make $2.2 million. Let's take a quick aside, and I don't want to make this segment but so long. The University of Tennessee, in originally signing this deal with Nico Iamaleava, enlisted the assistance of the state attorney general to sue so that that contract could be upheld. They changed the laws in the state of Tennessee to make it accommodating for someone like Iamaleava to come in to make that kind of money and to have it be under a favorable tax status. Now Iamaleava is leaving a state that bent over backwards for him, a university that bent over backwards for him, to go to UCLA, a team that had an atrocious offense last year, a brand new head coach that made himself look like a jackass during the Big Ten media days, in a state that doesn't give a rat's ass who you are. They're going to tax the living hell out of you. That $1.5 million isn't going to go nearly as far in the state of California as the $2.2 million that Nico Iamaleava was scheduled to make is going to go in the state of Tennessee. And given the state of the teams, Iamaleava likely had incentives under his contract that if he had done really well this season with Tennessee, he would make even more money. Is anyone optimistic that Iamaleava is going to be able to turn around a 5-7 UCLA team that has a lackluster offensive line at best? By the way, The father's excuses that the reason why Iamaleava had to leave Tennessee was because the offensive line was in shambles and they weren't getting guarantees that they were going to improve the offensive line and the wide receivers. What a bunch of bullshit. That he ends up at UCLA that has practically no offensive line and doesn't have one NFL prospect at wide receiver or tight end. That was just to make an excuse to justify what is nothing more than a money grab. Personally, I wish Nico Iamaleava all the best. I think he got terrible advice from his agent, and I think he was put under a lot of pressure by his father to go out and grab money, and he very likely sits now in a state of regret. And if he doesn't today, he's going to in 6 months when he's on the field for the UCLA Bruins and he's having to manage all the problems that one has to manage with a rebuilding football program. Lane Kiffin, who left the University of Tennessee after 1 year to go to USC, has often remarked in interviews that was an impetuous, stupid decision and was the biggest mistake of my life, or more accurately, his professional life. If it's not today, one day soon, Nico Iamaleava is going to realize that as well.
Act 2. Go see the movie Warfare.
As any longtime listener can attest, I think Hollywood is trash and the stuff that they put out is slop. The industry as a whole is struggling. That's not just Hollywood specific to movies. That's Hollywood television shows. That's Hollywood arts and entertainment. They've got a few good things out there right now, but most of the stuff is just trash. A bigger concern is how that's affecting our consciousness as a public with regard to going to a movie theater. There aren't that many movies that are worthy of going to see in a movie theater. The big popcorn movies that Hollywood came out with year after year after year, they aren't worthy of actually going to see, period. And any movie that you do want to see is now probably best translated to a big screen TV in your living room or in your den, something that is dramatic or that is actually well written. It's not naturally a movie that you would want to go see in the movie theater. Not big explosions, not big CGI. Well, along comes this little film called Warfare. Small budget production. $20 million, I think, is what they spent on making this movie. The studio, I believe, is A24, and you probably recognize that name. They've come out with a couple of movies that had a lower production budget but actually made money, considerable money, at the box office. Here comes another one, Warfare. I didn't see any advertising about this movie. All of a sudden, I see it out in theaters. A couple of movie critics that I respect had gone out and seen it. And it has received universal applause, universal praise. The movie is about a Marine platoon in Iraq in 2006 on a reconnaissance mission that is ambushed by jihadists and has to fight their way out of the situation. I don't want to go any more into the plot than that. And frankly, the movie is relatively simple in its plot. I've pretty much given you everything that you need to know about what the movie is about and how it progresses. But what it does that is so different than any other war film that I've ever seen, and by the way, I'm a fan of the genre, so I've seen many a war film, is that it does not have any of the typical Hollywood flair that goes along with a war movie. The writer and director of the movie, there are two writers and directors, I should be clear, but one of them actually served in Iraq and was present at the battle. So you have a participant who helped write the script and helped direct the movie. And what that does is it adds an authenticity to the combat scenes, of which the movie is practically one big long combat scene, that you don't normally see in Hollywood because most of the people involved in a movie in Hollywood have never been within 1,000 miles of a conflict like this. This is someone who was present in the middle of an intense firefight that lasted for a significant period of time. This person isn't an advisor to the movie. This person isn't someone who has a bit of say in how scenes are choreographed. This is a writer of the movie and a director of the movie. I believe his name is Ray Alvarez. I hope I'm not saying that wrong, but I am in a rush to get this segment done, so I'm not going to go and look it up. I'm pretty sure his name is Ray Alvarez. What struck me about the movie, and it took me a second to realize it, is how intense it was. And the reason why that tension was so palpable is that there is very little music in the movie. The movie does not have your typical Hollywood score, and I think most directors and editors would not be strong enough to do something like this, to not include any music in the movie whatsoever. This movie can't win an Academy Award for Best Score. There's no music. Longtime listeners of the podcast know that I harp on music when it comes to movies, television, even commercials, because music is a conscious and a subconscious cue for us, the human being. We follow along with the music. When things are going to get serious, the music leads us into that seriousness. We understand the nature of the scene because of the music. If it's lighthearted, so is the music. If the content on the screen is trash, generally the music is more overt and it's louder. It's basically leading you where the director couldn't, because perhaps the writing was poor, the acting was poor, or the editing was poor. Well, let's throw the music out there so you know that this is supposed to be a dramatic scene. You know this is supposed to be a lighthearted scene. If you take away the music altogether, you don't know where to go. We are Pavlov's dog, and the music is a whistle for us to anticipate fright, tension, glee, sadness. Without that, you are just as tense and uncertain as the characters are in the scenes during the film. And the tension is palpable, dear listener. It is palpable. It's one of the tensest war movies I've ever seen in my life. The combat scenes are next level. The attention to detail is incredible. The sound of the gunfire, the sound of the rounds hitting things. We routinely see all of these movies, and you never see the bullets ricocheting off of things. You never see the dust and the dirt flying up in the air. You never see bullets hitting concrete and fragments of that concrete being just as dangerous as the bullets. The movie impeccably covers all of this. Not to be outdone, the acting is impeccable. There isn't a lot of dialogue, but you can see on the actors' faces how tense these scenes must have been to shoot, and they do an excellent job translating what that anxiety and that fear feels like in the moment when you are in these intense combat situations. Every so often now we get these gems that come out of Hollywood, this industry that is in such dire straits because it's having such a crisis of creativity, and you see a movie that was made on a shoestring budget that didn't have hundreds of millions of dollars behind it in marketing, and it absolutely captures what we imagine movies can be if there is purpose and direction behind the intent of the filmmakers. This was clearly a story that the gentleman who was there, who participated, wanted to make to honor not only the people that served in that battle, but the people that served in general in Iraq and Afghanistan, probably all vets. And when you have that as your driving motivation to make a movie, instead of just making money, turning a profit, you actually get a product that you can be proud of and that other people see and appreciate and remember, oh, wait a minute. Filmmaking is an art, and there is an artistry to doing it. It doesn't have to be all about just forgetting about my troubles in some poorly slapped together corporate piece of shit that was just put out to try to separate me from my dollar. I don't know how long the movie will be out, but go and see Warfare in the movie theater. You will not regret it. This is Why I Don't Vote, a podcast.